Good morning, bore da. Dwi'n Ariel Tai, pennaeth digidol Promo Cymru. I'm Ariel Tai, Head of Digital at Promo Cymru. And I'm also part of the Newid team, working to deliver this third sector programme, digital support for the third sector. Yes, at Promo Cymru, we're a social enterprise and we're a charity as well. And a large part of my role is in supporting third sector organisations to rethink how they operate their services using digital. And the process that we use is service design, or you might have heard of the terms like user-centered design or agile. These have very, very similar principles. And before I pass over to Leanne, I'm just going to do a brief introduction to service design and sort of some of those principles that underpin it. So I want you to firstly have a quick think about a service that you think is brilliant, or if you want to, if it's easier, think of a service that you think is poor. And if you can post that in the chat, and while you do that, I'm going to run through a service that I use. So I don't know if any of you have seen the app Olio before. And it's actually an app that you put down on your phone, and it connects people who have things to give away. So like surplus food or things that you don't need or want anymore with your neighbours. It works really well in the city. I have to say, now I'm in Ceredigion, this app does not work very well at all because I don't have many neighbours that close to me. But when I was living in Cardiff and I was moving out of my flat, it was absolutely amazing because you just go on there and you can list absolutely anything. Like, for example, if you have, I had a load of spices that were like, some of them were used. And actually, it's the sort of thing you would just throw straight away in the bin. And when I was in Cardiff, I was able to just put them on this Olio app, and you wouldn't believe like how many people actually will respond. They live within a few minutes from your house, and they can actually just come round and pick things up from you. I think it's a really cool service, connecting people who've got things to give away with people who need them. It'd be great to hear if anybody's put some stuff in the chat. I don't know if Joe, you'll be able to read out some of these for me.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Too Good To Go is great. Lucy's just downloaded Olio. Jessica Makin has said that the government's passport renewal service is great.
Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing those. And really, I suppose what the reason I usually always start with this question is because we all know what a good service is. Good services are user-centered. So the reason that these services sort of work for us is because it meets a need. So I've got something to give away and somebody else needs something. And that's why this service works so well. And they don't just meet a need, but they're actually entirely designed around our needs as well. So not only do they have to meet a need in principle, but they also have to operate in a really easy way. If I downloaded that Olio app and I couldn't actually find people that were near to me, and it was really clunky to get in touch or anything like that, immediately that service is not going to be something that's very accessible for me to use. And more likely than not, I'm going to stop using it. And I think that's an experience that we all have with so many services, that actually they might be great in principle, something we need to access, but the way to access those services can be really challenging. So some other really good examples of user-centered design. On the left is the Men's Shed project that some of you might have heard of. It's an absolutely incredible scheme. And it's basically where in local communities, they build a men's shed. And men can come and they can repair things for neighbours. They can have cups of tea together. And really, it's about combating isolation and loneliness, but it's completely built around the community that uses it. And another one on the right, I love this one. I saw it on Dragon's Den many years ago, but I'm sure some of the parents in the room actually have these. So this is a suitcase called Trunky. And it's actually it's a suitcase for children, but they can sit on it and they can actually wheel along. And it's amazing. They come in all different colors and parents can pull them along at airports. And it's that sort of thing that you realize that's completely designed around parents' needs, a child's needs, and they're really thinking about their user within that design. So that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about user-centered design. And you see it in products all of the time. So product design is always sort of followed this methodology, really understands the user and designs around those needs. And when we're talking about designing services, we need to think about that same set of principles. Who is it that we're talking about when we're designing something? So trunky, yeah, it's a busy parent trying to get to the airport with your children, lots of packing going on, and actually being able to have this that you can pull your child along on, and a suitcase that they actually want to pack and they actually want to bring as well. So in the digital strategy for Wales, like thinking right at Welsh government level, it talks about right in the opening statement, instead of designing services from the viewpoint of what organisations think a citizen's needs, a digital approach involves designing services that meet the needs of the end user. So right from government level, we are talking about designing things in a user-centred way. You're probably hearing it more and more, and it's becoming more commonplace. But what does this actually mean? So we're going to take a step back a little bit into what is digital, because this is a really good place to start to think about why it's so important to be using these principles and designing in this way. This is, I suppose, the best definition that we use around what is digital when we're trying to explain the concept to third sector organisations. I'll read it out to you, and then I'll sort of reflect on what it means. So applying the culture and technologies of the internet era to make our organisations more resilient and responsive to the changing expectations, needs, and behaviours of the people we support. I think what's interesting about this statement is that it doesn't talk about sort of any products at all. It doesn't actually mention any particular tools, but it actually talks about a culture and technologies of the internet era. What this sort of means to us, I suppose, when we're designing services, that as technology changes, our services need to change in response to that. But that's also because our culture changes and our expectation changes. So we are now all users of technology all of the time. We are used to being able to book a hair appointment, using an app. We're used to getting reminders to tell us that we've got an Amazon delivery arriving. And so our expectation is starting to change. And so our services need to be adapting in response to this as well. And that is really a user-centered approach, because it's thinking about the users, it's thinking about how we consume technology, how we operate in the world today, and actually making sure that our services are considering this culture as well. And so how do we do this? We might know that, yeah, we do need to make sure our services are user-centered, but actually, how do we do this in practice? And what's really great is there's an amazing methodology that we use in our work. And actually, I will be sharing at the end of this, the next design course that we've got coming up, where we can actually help you to use this service design process to put these principles into action. So this is if you haven't seen it before, it's called the Service Design Double Diamond. And it was designed by the Design Council. And it gives us a really brilliant step-by-step approach to thinking about starting with the problem and working through to a solution. So if you start there at the beginning of the diamond, you have a problem that you need to solve. But before you jump to the end point, which is the solution, which so many of us do, what the double diamond tells us we need to do is we need to go into discovery. So we need to really understand that problem better. And what that means is we need to really understand the people that this problem exists for. We need to understand our service users. We need to talk to them. We need to understand how what technologies they use and what their needs are. And then only then can we actually go into that middle point where we can really say this really is a problem that exists for this target audience. After that, the diamond opens up again, which shows us that instead of jumping to a solution, we are then going out into the diamond again, which is thinking about many different solutions to this same problem and starting to test out different solutions and different approaches in a small way with our service users to make sure it is actually meeting the needs that we set out to. And only finally, when we've gone through this process, do we move down into that final part of the diamond, which is where we scale up these solutions. We've got Leanne here today because Leanne came on a service design course with us a couple of years ago. And in our course, we actually take organizations on this journey. So we support them to think of a challenge that they're facing in their organisation and to move through this journey to come out with a solution. And that's what Leanne's going to be showing us later, is the way that they've worked through this double diamond process. I like to put this one in. This was shared with me by CAST, the Centre for Accelerated Social Technology. And I think, as you can see on here, the solution that they've put in place. So this is actually I suppose a measure to stop people cycling fast down this path and onto a busy road at the end. So they're actually trying to slow down bikes. But actually what's happened is they didn't sort of take into consideration that bikes are just going to go around the edge. And so when we're talking about service design, we're really, again, thinking about our users, we're thinking about how they use things, and we're understanding how they behave in different scenarios. So even though this seems like a really great solution, when you actually implement it and you put it into a place, you realize that actually people are going to go their own path. So I'm going to very quickly, before I pass over to Leanne, try and talk through a project that we've worked with following this process, so that I can be helping to articulate this process in action through a project that we worked on at Promo Cymru. So we worked with NHS, and we wanted to rethinking how a sexual health service might look like for young people. So we worked in the clinic in Cardiff on Newport Road. We wanted to have a look at if we could improve the process and accessibility for young people accessing sexual health services. So what we knew right at the beginning was that STIs are a high risk among young people, and that information that they were finding online really wasn't that accessible for them. We started working with a group of young people, and we got them to digest and have a look at the information online. And we found out this really interesting information that young people were actually turning up to clinics at the wrong time. So not only is this already like a challenging situation, they've got to go and get tested, they've got to queue up outside what at the time they had to sort of join this big queue on Newport Road to go and get tested, and actually young people were turning up at the wrong time and they were getting turned away. So we wanted to find out like what was really going on here. So the first thing that we did was we went into different schools and we started to storyboard with young people. So we wanted to really find out from their perspective what was happening when they were going online and they were finding this information, and why was it that they were turning up to a clinic at the wrong time? Because actually the information was there online on the NHS website. So what we did was we actually set out like this little storyboard scenario. And we put in that first square, we said, this is your scenario. You've come into college or school on a Monday morning, and you or a friend has had unprotected sex on Saturday night with Sam, and now you've heard, or they've heard, that they may have chlamydia. OMG, I'm so worried. So we asked them, we gave them that scenario, and we said, we need you to now think about what you're going to do. Now imagine this is happening to you, and we want you to storyboard every step of the way, because what was really important to us was to find out what they'd actually do, not what they tell us they're going to do in this situation. So they started searching on their phones, and they were searching up chlamydia, and they were finding lots of scary things, and they were getting more worried, and they found out lots of sort of dodgy websites. But actually, they did then, which was amazing, got to the right page on the NHS website, and they managed to actually find their local clinic. So most of the young people managed to get to this page and find their local clinic. And then they've put in their storyboard. Obviously, they didn't do this part, but they had to then make up the rest of the storyboard where they said, right, I went and got tested, and then I waited 2 to 3 weeks, and then I got my results. But what was really interesting is we asked them, well, when would you go to the clinic? And nearly all of them said, oh, the clinic, they found out the clinic time. They said it's on Tuesday at like 10 o'clock. So we're going to go then. And they were going to go straight away. But what was interesting is that they completely missed that the information on the website said that you needed to wait 2 to 3 weeks for chlamydia to actually show up in your system. So there was absolutely no use in going to the clinic that next week. You needed to wait 2 to 3 weeks. And it did have this information on the NHS website, but the young people were missing this crucial part of information. So what we did then with our discovery research is we started to put it into a journey map. So this is a tool, a really useful tool to really help you think about looking at things from a user's perspective. So a young person is worried they might have chlamydia. They search online and they feel overwhelmed by the confusing amount of information and horror stories. They find their local clinic, so they're feeling a little bit happier now. They're feeling like they can do something about this. They're frustrated because actually they can't book an appointment. They just simply have to turn up and wait and hope to be seen. So that is not a good, you can already start to see when you start to map it out from a user's perspective, that's not a good user experience. Then they join the queue and they feel very embarrassed. And when we start taking feelings into account, because we're thinking about our users and we're thinking the fact that these are actually young people, we start to empathize and realize like how challenging that situation is and what a barrier that is for them. But they feel very hopeful because they get to see a health worker, but unfortunately they got turned away. And if you start seeing it and you start seeing it from that perspective, and that's actually happening to many young people, it's quite clear that there is a challenge here that we need to overcome, and we need to make this a better system, a better service. I won't run through sort of all of this, but we started to think about when we had this poor journey map, okay, what could a better experience look like for a young person? And in the better experience, and I'm sure you're already, for when you saw that poor journey map, starting to think of all different things that actually could improve that. So what we really want is that when they're first worried that they might have chlamydia, is that when they go online, or whether it is they go for that help or information, they actually find accessible information that speaks to them in a language that works for them. We actually said that wouldn't it be great if they could then find like a chat where they could actually chat to a health advisor or book an appointment, go back to a website to get information. This is what the young people wanted as well. They wanted information about like what actually happens when I go to the clinic, what do I have to prepare for? And this would completely improve the journey by just putting in some extra changes to these steps to make this a more accessible service to young people. So we went on a bit of a journey ourselves at Promo Cymru, and we started to create content and information that was accessible to young people. So we created videos that they could watch, and we supported the health service with actually launching their test and post service, and by creating sort of video content that could go along that service for young people. And we created a new way for young people to find that information online. And what we call this is we call this a prototype. So instead of developing a whole new approach and a whole new website, what we actually did is we used something called Typeform, which is a decision tree, which is basically a survey where young people now, when they land on the website, they, instead of scrolling through lots of information, they just input how old they are, what type of sex they had, what happened. And at the end of it, it actually will direct them to a clinic. And it also tells them really crucially that they must wait 2 weeks until they have to get tested. And this has now been accessed absolutely thousands and thousands of times. And it's reduced that time for people to get support to about 5 seconds to be able to actually find out that crucial piece of information that they need. So really what we're talking about when we're talking about user-centered services is about thinking about the need from this perspective of the user, mapping out their journey and their experiences through our services and improving those step by step, and making sure that our services are easy to find, easy to use, easy to contact, and easy to feedback. These things that actually we really expect today from accessing services. So that's a very brief introduction into some of the things that we teach on our service design course. And our next course is going to be starting in January. So on the 13th of January, we are going to be starting our 10-week design course, where you will be supported to use digital to solve a real problem your organization is facing. We will have an in-person session in between, and then an online session at the end. And what we do is we support you through giving you mentoring and guidance. Diolch yn fawr.